I just want to know why, Jonathan. You gave me Spectres, and I was ready to blast my way to the end game and try out what is arguably the best monster I could turn into a friendly Spectre. The Elephant Tortoise. Clearly the most superior mob in the game. It's big. It certainly won't fit in those interior crypt-like maps, and maybe that's why it's suddenly gone. But you told me. You told me I can turn mobs into Spectres, and all through point 1, I talked about Spectring this thing. And what did you do? You removed it from the game, and you thought we wouldn't notice. This slight will be remembered, but I can forgive him for now, because the pure fact I can pick any other mob is pretty sweet. Although I noticed we also can't Spectre the Transcendent Archer. I see that attack speed. I see what you did there. But I better see that Elephant Tortoise come back. In the meantime, I have some thoughts on the state of Spectres, and I want to answer some questions. Are they worth it? Which ones are good? And how do you decide which are good? And do you have to try them all to actually figure it out? And for the impatient ones among you, the answer is, there's one or two that have good potential. If you want a list, I'll show you where to find one. And finally, trying them all is going to be a waste of your time. So let's break down Spectres, the good, the bad, and what grinding gear games can do about it. First up, I need to shout out another creator, Toru. Sorry if I butchered that. This guy has a small channel and has been going so hard on Spectres, he's heading up a community spreadsheet that I'll run through in a minute. So massive shout out to him. Both the spreadsheet and his channel are in the description. If you're looking for some solid Spectre info after this video, I definitely head there next. So what have they been doing? Toru and the wider community have been logging every Spectre in the game and thankfully sharing that information. This list is nearing completion, but as you can see, we're missing the odd bit of info which is still being fleshed out. For context, I've also done some of my own testing on Spectres, which I'll throw up on screen here and there as I talk to the issues I've noted, but my own solo efforts can't even compare partially to what this community has thrown together. So I'll reference both my own experiences as well as what I've read from the community and try to give you the distinction. My footage you're seeing is purely me testing some Spectres in an underleveled area to see the monster behavior, which I'll touch on soon. Now if you're curious, just want to know which Spectres are viable, this is their legend for it. Bright green means they're top of the list and usable. The slightly muted green means they're potentially good but need to be looked over. This tan color means they're painfully average, but someone out there might find a weird interaction or build that'd make them work. And if they don't have a color, they're likely on the shit list. I'll go into why that is shortly, which is my opinion. So at a quick glance, we can see there are only 2 Spectres from the list of 426 that are potentially good. And I will say I've tried them both. The Quill Crab was pretty solid, but failed to really surpass the stock standard skeleton minions we get from the all-around perspective. The footage you're seeing is the venomous variety I tried out, but they suggest the cold version. And the second one is the Val Guard that throws grenades. I hadn't initially tried this one because I didn't like the delay on the grenades, but after giving them a shot, they're not bad either, but they're both heavily held back by some bugs associated with Spectres at the moment, as well as some general issues. I don't have much more to add on the spreadsheet. This is it at a glance. I'd highly recommend looking it over if you want more detail. It tells you generally where to find what you're looking for, alongside damage types to help you know what passives and supports you'll need to consider. There are also YouTube videos against many showing them off, so if you want to scan for enemies that sound interesting and check the gameplay, Toru put up a bunch of smaller videos, although many are still being completed. But the guy has put in immense work, definitely check him out. Now onto the major issues with Spectres as I see them. The bugs, and the simple fact, the vast majority of monsters in the game weren't designed to be player minions. So let's talk bugs quickly. The biggest bug associated with Spectres is the fact that when you leave their proximity, they turn into wisps and then quickly catch up before becoming their Spectre form again. Sounds good. I wish they just resummon like skeletons do, because the issue is the wisp animation is bugged at the moment. As you can see here, sometimes the wisps just get stuck. They change form and just hang out. And this is hard to catch when you're trying to move quickly and they're off screen. Half the time I didn't realize it was happening because I thought they just died, or I just hadn't picked up on the fact that I was missing one in the chaos of 20 things running around the screen. To solve it, you can generally direct your minions, as in tell them to move, but this causes all minions to follow that rule, meaning you could have 1 stuck and 5 attacking, but you need to stop those 5 from attacking to unstick the 1. It's a simple solution, but I know for me and many other players, losing that DPS when you're trying to farm maps, it's time you don't really want to waste. And honestly, knowing when a minion is stuck isn't something you should need to track. Now, if this issue is fixed, those crabs, those Valgards, they're sounding a little better to me. and they may be worth replacing your skeletons for. But this doesn't solve another challenge that makes the vast majority of Spectres kind of awful. The issue is two-pronged. Simply how the system has been implemented, mixed with the fact that they have been designed as monsters first. Looking at implementation, if you're not familiar, grinding games use a script across all mobs to turn them into Spectres. This was based on how much XP the mob would give you. The higher the XP, the higher the mob's spirit cost. And the problem is, that's it. At face value, that's fine, but it leads some mobs to having very high costs that need to be offset but haven't been. Now again, at face value, it makes sense why they chose this avenue. If the mob gives more XP, it's probably better, and it's probably going to cost more, right? Well, this is where that comment I made about these mobs being designed to be monsters first comes into effect. In my opinion, the main reason the majority of Spectres suck right now is simply because they were designed to fight the player, not another monster. Obvious in many cases, I know, but what I'm referencing specifically is monster behavior, and the footage I'm showing is me running around random Spectres to watch how they perform, not necessarily damage, but their actions. The reason the Crab and the Vile Guard with the grenades are decent is because they walk or run until they're in range, and then they just keep firing, exactly like your sniper skeletons or other ranged minions you summoned before. A lot of Spectres I've tested have mechanics that make them attempt to avoid damage by running around, or they have incredibly long animations for their actions. These mobs that have special abilities like creating poison mushrooms on the ground or charging up a big hit, those animations are long so that you as a player can avoid them. Those mobs run around to avoid you. So as a player, you have to overcome that mobility. Problem is, in practice, players want their minions to be consistent. That's why, again, the Crab and the Guards are so good. They are consistent. A Spectre doing a long animation is killer, especially for clearing or against mobile bosses. If they start that animation and the enemy moves, it's wasted, and it's wasted time. Same with monster move speed. Many Spectres are far too slow to be viable without needing a lot of support or attention on their weaknesses, which often had me thinking, well, I'll just use the minions I have built into skills already. They are faster, they have consistent attacks, and they won't waste time. Why take a mob that shoots once every 3 seconds when my skeletons throw out a projectile every second? The biggest problem being that even if the mob that shoots every 3 seconds has a much stronger projectile, if that misses, you've now wasted 6 seconds until the next shot. 6 seconds your skeletons could have been using to hit consistent shots. And now, I don't want to get rid of monster actions, I'm just highlighting here why some of them feel really bad. I think it's really good that those monsters can use those actions, but it is something to consider. This was my major awakening through the campaign. I would find a minion that looks and acts cool, for lack of a better word, try it out, and watch in dismay as it charged up a long attack, simply to hit a white mob while I was kiting a rare, or winding up an attack that didn't land because the target walked or jumped away. That all makes sense as monster behavior when they're shooting for the player, you're meant to dodge it, but when it's your minion and it's frequently missing or using long cooldowns on low tier mobs, it doesn't translate to fun. Now I should say, I expected this, and I imagine many others did too. Spectres were always an insane goal. Any monster in your pocket, there is never going to be a world in which even 10% of the Spectres in game are widely usable. And this is where I'd love to see some clarification from grinding gig games on their vision for the skill, because knowing the goal will help us to help them get there. Will any Spectres get individual adjustments in the future after full release, or will they always be mass adjusted? I don't necessarily expect someone to go over each one with a fine-tooth comb, but minor adjustments across the board could be achievable. And this comes down to the question of whether Spectres are designed for the common player or for the build creator and followers. I personally don't use builds in Path of Exile 2. I've loved the exploration of builds in the game, and it's much friendlier in design, allowing me to make mistakes and fix them with some investment. I therefore don't feel the need to use guides, and I'm liking the game more as a result. For someone like me, Spectres are almost non-existent, and I worry that is the same for a majority of the players in the game. Maybe not those of you watching this video who are looking for this information, but my friends who don't follow a bunch of creators and watch a bunch of videos, they're never going to try more than a couple Spectres before being turned off to the idea. Imagine you have over 400 monsters. You Spectre 5 you think will be cool, and all 5 suck. They suck hard. Would you keep trying? Or should I ask, would you expect a regular player to keep trying? Especially when skill gems and sport gems may be in short supply. If you waste some on a few Spectres in the campaign and get nowhere, would you bother to try again? Sure, people will look up the answer, but I keep coming back to whether that's the intention for this skill. Do we want it to be very niche? Or do we want the average player to be able to use them on and off? It's not about the Spectre being the best in slot, it's about being viable at the lowest level. What I think I'd prefer to see is that there is a base level of expectation when you put on a Spectre, a certain base move speed that means they'll generally keep up with the player, even if that means raising the move speed for a monster with high damage and lowering the damage somewhat to compensate. This is a simple example. It's a much larger, more nuanced topic, but from a design perspective, the current implementation does lead to a feels bad moment, where you are playing the game. Most Spectres you try feel bad, and then you need to come to YouTube or a literal Excel spreadsheet to find answers to your questions. I know this community is used to that type of behavior, but if we truly want to bring fresh players in, these types of interactions either need clarity or additional support. From my view, I'm happy with the implementation, but I do hope Spectres get another pass when the game's closer to full release. I wouldn't want them dedicating time to this now. Let's get the rest of the game going first. But I'd love to know, what are the long-term plans? Are Spectres always going to be a niche option for a few builds, or are they going to be more widespread in use? I do see pros and cons to both. Keeping them niche means more exploration for those that go digging. There may be really specific interactions we haven't found yet, especially considering we don't have all the skills and items in the game. Hell, this might be why Grunninger Games release Spectres in this way, to see if the community can find random, broken, wacky builds. But if that doesn't happen, if by full release we're looking at this spreadsheet with two options that are basically mirrors of ranged skeletons, maybe we need to consider something more wide scale to bring them into line. I was so keen to try out themed Spectre builds, riding into a battle on a rower with an army of them behind me, overwhelming enemies with beetle numbers to make up for the many times they surrounded me. But right now, none of that seems possible with today's implementation. I'm very excited to see where Spectres go, and it is early days. Community are only now finishing the catalogue of options, but full exploration of what they can do is still on the table. So tell me, what do you think of Spectres? Are they meeting your expectations? Do you want them to remain very niche options, or do you think they need a bit of minion magic to make them behave more consistently? Let me know in the comments, and a final shout out to Toru. I'll be watching the spreadsheet closely and seeing what the community can make out of it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, if you've enjoyed it, throw a like on, sub if you want to see more, but you being here, that's what really matters. If you want to catch me live, you can find me here on YouTube and Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 PM Australian Western Standard Time, playing anything and everything. Until then, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.